Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I will be reviewing and showing you how to play Agamemnon by Günter Cornet. Let me show you his name right there, Günter Cornet. Now, this game was put out by Osprey Games. There's their logo. And I just want to throw a shout out that one of my viewers requested I get a copy of and review this game. I could not find their comment again later after I had obtained the game, so I apologize. I wanted to thank them personally for drawing my attention to this. I had not actually heard of this game before they messaged me about it. Now, I picked up my copy of this game from Amazon. I was already doing an Amazon order for some other unrelated things, and I happened to see that Amazon had this on sale for quite affordable price, so I threw it in with the order, got it, played a few games of it, and now I'm ready to review it and show you how to play it. So first, let's talk about the box and the components. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is the box, because the box is got an interesting design. Now, as you'll notice, it's not like a normal board game box. It's very thin. I can fit it in one hand here. It's made to be the shape of a book, and it even opens like a book. It doesn't open like a normal board game box. It doesn't have a top sliding over the bottom. It has a spine like a book, and it opens that way. Now, it's obvious to me that this is so that it can fit sideways in your bookshelf like this and not take up a whole lot of room. It's nice and thin here. You've got the name facing outward on the spine, you have the company facing outward on the spine, so you can tell what it is at a glance, and it takes up very minimal room facing this way. In addition, having the spine all be connected like this, even if there's not anything next to it, it's not going to fall open. There's no chance of that happening. So now I do appreciate innovative box designs like this, especially one that is aimed at using your space in your bookshelves wisely, because I have quite a few games and sometimes it can be tough to fit them all in there and I have to stack ones on top of the bookshelves. This is one that helps me with fitting all of my games into one shelf, so I do appreciate that. Now let's have a look at some of the components. Let's open this up. First thing, before we have a look at the components, let me discuss, this is, Agamemnon is a two-player, specifically just two-player abstract strategy game. Now, it is recommended for ages 12 and up, and it says it plays in about 15 to 30 minutes. So, first off, the 15 to 30 minute mark is a pretty good estimate. All my games have been around the lower side of that, around 15 minutes. It's a very quick game. You can play a couple in a row. And then also the 12 and up. Now, this one's a little tricky because the actual play of the game is very simple, and I really feel that even children younger than 12 could figure out how to pick up pieces and put them down on the board in the basic version of the game. But then the strategy of playing it right and figuring out how to win properly, the 12 there becomes a better estimate, because it's kind of like how an 8-year-old can learn how to play chess, but he's never going to beat his dad, or she's never going to beat her mom, or any variation thereof. Because while learning the moves of the pieces in chess is very easy, learning how to actually win is a little more advanced. And this has a similar feel to that. Actually playing the game, very easy. Learning to win, on the other hand, a bit more advanced. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, I say it's an abstract strategy game, but this is not like any of the other abstract strategy games I reviewed on my channel. I wanted to draw attention to that. The gameplay is a little more unique than that, which is very cool. It involves placing tiles on the board. It has a similar feel, not really similar play style, but similar feel to the classic abstract strategy game of Go, where you take turns placing stones on intersections. This has intersections, and I'll show you the board in a minute, in the Loom of Fate, where you place your pieces. So that's the closest other abstract strategy game I can compare it to, because it shares no similarities to many other abstract strategy games, such as chess or checkers or backgammon or anything like that. The only abstract strategy games I could compare it to style-wise would be Go, or the first phase of Nine Man's Morris, when you're first just placing your pieces on the board on the intersections. Other than that, though, the totality of the game does not feel like either Nine Man's Morris or Go. And I will show you that, like I say, in a minute when we go to the table and I tell you how to play the game. Now, the first component you get is a nice little cheat sheet. When playing the game, you have your pieces randomized in front of you face down, and you have to randomly draw them. This is very good because it helps remind you what's still out there. What have you not drawn and played on the board yet? So as you can see, they're marked Greeks and Trojans, and that's because part of the theme is that this is supposed to be the Trojan War. Now, the game is completely symmetrical, and as you can see, both you and your opponent have exactly the same number and exactly the same pieces available to you. Then, of course, there is the rule booklet, because how else would we know how to play, right? Now, here's the board, and the board is double-sided, and that is because this game contains quite a few modes of play, and two of the main different options you have when deciding how to play require a completely different board from one another. Now, this is the main board for the main mode of play for Agamemnon, and this is the Loom of Fate on that board. Then there is the Loom version. Now, on the Loom, you have a larger board, more spaces, and more thread areas. And after I show you how to play the basic version, I will delve into what this entails a little bit. Then we have the pieces for the two players. Again, we have the Greeks and the Trojans. Now, both of them are exactly the same, except that one is black and one is orange. On the back side of them, you have a picture of a ranking officer's helmet from the time period. You can always tell that, by the way, for those who are fans of history and don't already know this, by the facing of the plume on the helmet. The horsehair crest for a standard soldier would have been front to back, whereas if the horsehair crest was side to side, that meant that you were the ranking officer of the Union. So that's what that shows there. Then on the other side, we have what piece it is. Now these are face down, and you're going to draw a random one. So you draw this one, and you have a level 3 soldier, which again I can show you on the cheat sheet. You can see that there are level 1, level 2, and level 3 warriors based on how many spears they have. You have the two kinds of weavers, and you have all the individual leaders of your side. The final group of pieces to show you are the thread pieces. These are the thread pieces. The main threads that are used, there are 3 varieties of threads on the Loom of Fate that are the main ones that you use, which are leadership, force, and strength. Let me show you each of them. And they're easily discernible from one another. So here is strength with the spears. Obviously, this has great symbol because it references who has the most spears on that thread is the person who's going to get control of that thread. The next one is force. Now force, different color and different symbols entirely, has circles. Now the circles are to reference how many pieces, just plain pieces of any kind, that you have on that thread, because whoever has the most plain pieces on that thread gains control of the thread. The last one, whose symbol is a little harder to interpret, is the leadership one. Now for that one, it's just who has the highest ranking leader on that thread gets control of that thread. The symbol itself is just a little design, and I guess it might have been a little difficult to come up with a good symbol to represent leadership, whereas the other ones, you know, the circles represent pieces and the spears represent the spears that are on the pieces, and those were really easy for them to come up with. Okay, so that's a look at all the pieces for Agamemnon. Now, we're going to go to the table. I'm going to show you how to play, and when we're done, we'll come back here, and I will give you my thoughts on the game. I'm going to review it and rank it, and then we'll get a second opinion from Len. So, let's head on down, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, so here we see a basic setup for Agamemnon. Now the board has been set up with all of the different strings on the board, on the Loom of Fate here, if you will. And the way you know where to set them up is very easy. The board shows you where each string goes. So for instance, if you look here and you move that, there is the symbol for a leadership string there. So obviously a leadership string goes there. There's the symbol for a fourth string, so fourth string goes there. And strength strings, as you can see, go there. Now, once that's all set up, you have the two players, the Greek and the Trojan player, randomize all their pieces face down, and then when they're ready to take their turns, they're going to be randomly drawing from their pile of pieces here to place them on the board. You decide however you like which player goes first. On the very first turn, the first player will draw a random piece, and a single random piece, and place it on the loom. Every turn they're on, they draw two pieces. Both players draw two pieces, except for the very final turn, because there was an odd number of pieces, so the last player to go on their last turn will draw a single piece as well. So, I've decided that the Trojan player is going first. They're going to draw a random piece, and they get one of their leaders. Now, in this case, if you look at the leader, you'll see that he has a letter D up here, and then he has 3 spears there. Now, leaders can vie both for leadership strings and strength strings. So, it would be really good for this player to place their piece there. Because in this case, now they have a letter on this leadership string, and they have 3 spears on this strength string here. So they're currently in control of both of those. So now it is the Greek player's turn, and of course they can immediately change how that goes. Let's have a look. So they also drew a leader, and they drew a single level warrior. Now their leader has a C and 4 spears, which means he has more strength than the leader that was drawn from the Trojan player, and the C is closer to the letter A, so he's also a higher ranking leader. So he's decided he's going to play very aggressively, and he's going to vie for power in the same area. So he's going to play his leader here, because if this all winds up getting connected with another piece here, he's going to have the higher ranked leader there. And then he's going to play his single rank spear there, and he also has 2 more strength if this all winds up connected, 2 more strength for that strength thread. Now it's the Trojan player's turn to go. Now here we have one of the weaver tiles. This one is the weft. They have the warp and the weft. The warp has a triangle on it. The weft has the, I forget the name of that letter, but it is a Greek letter on it. Now, in the first 2 turns, if you draw a weaver tile, you are allowed to shuffle it back into your mix and draw again. However, in this case, the Trojan player decides he wants to play this tile, and I'll show you why. Now, the weft allows you to split a string. So at the point of the weft, while it counts towards all the strings it touches, where it is, it counts as the end of each of those strings. It kind of cuts them. And the reason why that's good is now the weft is going to be placed there, which means the leadership string is cut into 2. So while this C is currently in control of these 2 pieces, the D is in control of the lower portion of that leadership string. Then the player decides, the Trojan player decides they will play the single spear piece there. Okay, so now this continues on. Everyone keeps taking turns until you've placed pieces all along the board. There will be a couple of empty spaces. Empty spaces count the same as a weft. They count as cutting the string. So if this string were to end up this way, these would be 2 separate strings. One small string touching this piece here, and one large string touching all the pieces that are there. At the end of the game, you are able to look at the board and one at a time pull the string pieces from the board while leaving the player pieces on the board to show for future strings who wins those strings. And the way you win strings is fairly simple. You take a look at a string and you say, okay, so this string is a strength string that goes from here to here with no wefts and no empty spaces breaking it up from there to there. And what you do is you count the spears of each player that are touching that string. So in this case, we have 4 spears from the Trojans and only 1 spear from the Greeks. So these 4 tiles would be taken off the board and given to the Trojan player. If nobody has what is required to help you win that string, the string goes back in the bag and no one gets it. If both people have an equal rating of whatever is required to win that string, then again, it goes back in the bag and no one gets that string. For the other two types of strings, the force string requires you just have the most pieces there. So, for instance, with this force string, these two pieces are connected here, and only the Trojans have pieces touching this force string. They have one piece here and one piece there. They would get that force string. Now, for the leadership string, it doesn't matter how many of anything you have. It just matters who has the highest rank. So you have one leadership string here that is too long, where on this too long piece you have the Greeks are the only people with a ranking on it. They would get that leadership string of two pieces. This other one is too long because there's nothing here, so that's cut. And on this one, the Trojans are the only people who have a ranked piece there. Now, if instead of having this weft piece here, if that wasn't here, if instead we had a single spear there, and we had another piece there, now we have a much longer leadership string. This leadership string is unbroken over the entire length. Now what happens is it doesn't matter who has the most pieces, doesn't matter who has the most strength for leadership, just matters who has the highest rank. And in the case of this particular leadership string, it goes to the rank C, who has the highest rank. He would get, for the Greeks, all of these leadership pieces. It'd take them all off the board and the Greeks would collect them. After you've gone through all the strings and decided who gets each of them, or if no one gets them, whoever collected the most strings wins the game of Agamemnon. And that is how you play a game of Agamemnon. So now let's go back upstairs and I will tell you my thoughts on the game. I'll review it and we will get a second opinion from Len.
Okay, welcome back. So that was how you play Agamemnon. There's just one thing I forgot to tell you when we were down there, so I want to point it out now. The other kind of weaver tile, I forgot to point it out. Now this is the warp tile. I showed you the weft, if you recall, that is what cuts the strings. Now the warp tile, when you place a warp tile on the board, you're allowed to take any pair of string tiles that touch the warp tile and swap them. So this is very neat for splitting strings or rejoining strings, because you can swap them around, or not rejoining, but joining strings that were never joined to begin with, especially if you're going to wind up getting all of that giant string now. Warp tiles and weft tiles do add a very, very interesting element to Agamemnon. It ups the strategic playability of the game quite a bit. Now I want to go over a few different modes of play, because Agamemnon comes with 3 different variants in the back. Now the first I want to talk about is the loom, because this is the biggest variant. Now, as this was the normal board we just looked at, this is the loom variant. Now you'll notice the loom variant is much larger and it has different symbols on it. Now the reason is, and the game comes with 4 string tiles, just 4, of one of each of these new symbols. And there they are. Now it says to put them face down. Unfortunately, this must have been an accident in the printing. They are double-sided. So it's not that big a deal. You have to randomly draw some. So the way I would do it is put it in my hand, mix them up in my hand, and then not looking, randomly pull one out and say, oh, there we go. There you are. There's the first one drawn. And the way you do this is you draw these 4, and the first one you draw, you put all of the strength tiles on that symbol. So this, we drew the one with the red waves there. So then I would take all the strength tiles and I would place them on the board at all of these red wave marked strings. The second one you draw, so let me get a second one out there. There we go. Now you would look for all of these on the board and you'd place all of the force strings on those locations. And then the third one you draw, oh, there we go, we got the green one with the black stripes. We would place all the leadership ones there. Now the last one that we did not draw, this one here, means all of those are going to be blank, which means you actually have a fair number of blank string areas on the loom board. It allows you to randomize the board while keeping it fairly even, and it also allows, when placing a warp tile on the board, to swap an empty space with a space that has a string. So rather than swap two strings, you have a new option of being able to just literally move a string into an empty space to reconnect or connect up strings, or even separate strings, depending on what you want to do with those lovely warp tiles. I like the warp tiles a lot. Now, the other two options allow you to take some of the randomness or all of the randomness out of the game. Now, my brother is a fan of abstract strategy games, but he hates it when they have randomness in it. He likes his abstract strategy games of a specific flavor, and that is total information. And the basic version of Agamemnon is not a total information game. So if I were to say to my brother when he would be visiting, hey, do you want to play a game of Agamemnon? And I described it to him, the base version, I know he probably wouldn't want to play it. He'd opt to play a total information game instead. However, guess what? One of the variants is turning Agamemnon into a total information game, and one of the others still keeps some randomness, but reduces the amount of randomness of the game. So in both cases, they vary the amount of randomness of the game of Agamemnon in a downward progression. So the first variant I want to tell you about is called the Oracle. Now, the Oracle for Agamemnon is that you take your tiles and you still place them face down, but you separate them into 3 piles. So the first pile is the warriors, the second pile the leaders, and the third pile the weaver tiles. So while it is somewhat still random, you at least know what type of tile you're drawing. Now, that is the Oracle, and again, you can play the Oracle either on the standard Agamemnon board or on the loom board, where you're going to get some variety to how the game is set up, whereas the Agamemnon board is always the same setup. The third variety is the Defy the Gods variety. Now, in Defy the Gods, there is no more mystery, there is no more fate. All tiles are placed in front of you face up, which means it is 100% your strategy. Now, this is the version I know that my brother would like to play because he likes total information games, and this becomes a total information game when you play it in the Defy the Gods version. Again, that can be played either with the standard Agamemnon board or with the loom board. And the loom board, of course, would be something that he wouldn't like as well because it gives randomness to it. I think he would like to play with the standard variety board, where you always know exactly where each of the strings are, and with the Defy the Gods variant, because then you would know all your pieces. Now, one thing I do have to say about this, and they specifically cite this in the rulebook, is that playing with the Defy Your Gods variant is going to increase the length of your game significantly. And I could see how this would happen, because you would get a lot of staring at your pieces and going, ooh, should I play a warrior and a leader this turn? Should I save that leader for later? Is it time to pull out one of my weaver tiles? Ooh, and I could definitely see a lot of people I play with getting a bit of what they refer to as analysis paralysis at this point in this version of the game. I don't think I would have analysis paralysis. I would have favorite tiles that I would love to play in the first turn, favorite tiles I would love to play in the second turn, favorite tiles I would love to save for the very end. And I could see my brother doing that as well, but other friends of mine that I play with, when they have too many options open, and this includes Lynn, when she has too many options open, they tend to get analysis paralysis, where they just stare at their pieces for like 10 minutes and don't know which one to choose. So for people like that, the more randomness would be better. But for other people who do like to have a total information strategy game, this is a great option. And I like that they put that in there, because even if they hadn't put that in the rulebook, I still would have tried it at some point, because I still said, hey, I wonder how Agamemnon plays, getting to know what piece I'm about to draw and making it a total information game. But putting it in there means it is an official variant of the game. I don't even have to house rule it, which is great. And again, if you've watched some of my reviews, you will already know that I absolutely love it when game designers add in lots of variety, lots of different ways to play, lots of options. The more options, the better. I think that is very generous to the consumers. So there you have it. That is all of the varieties of play, all of the options you have open to you for Agamemnon. So now I want to talk a little bit about how I feel about this game. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the theme. This game has an overabundance of theme because it has two themes and it kind of shoves them together. Now, you've got the theme of the loom of fate, the fates from Greek mythology, weaving the loom of fate, and mortals are powerless against them, and we are playing the fates and we are weaving the loom of fate, and that's great. That theme works so well for this game. It feels exactly like what you're playing. You are moving mortals around like playing pieces on a board and altering the loom of fate, and that's terrific. The other theme is a little more shoehorned in, and that is the Battle of Troy. And the reason I say this is, I mean, the Battle of Troy was a huge, violent, prolonged affair, and this is a game where you don't ever actually get to attack or capture enemy pieces. So it feels like a Battle for Troy game should really have capturing and attacking going on in it. It kind of feels like the game company might have felt that the Loom of Fate wasn't an exciting enough theme and said, hey, Loom of Fate, it's ancient Greek, you know, we've got all these great ancient Greek battles, let's pick one and just throw it in there. And it doesn't really feel like it fits. It's not that it's a bad theme. I mean, I love the Battle of Troy as a theme. It just doesn't feel like it fits with this game. I would have preferred if the game itself actually just stuck with the one theme of the Loom of Fate and didn't add in the theme of the Battle of Troy. They could have done the spears still for strength, or they could have done the spears as an example. They could have done the spears as Roman numerals or just numbers instead of the letters for rank. They could have just done numbers or tally marks for that matter. It wouldn't really matter. It would have been a quick fix, and you wouldn't have needed to have the whole theme of the Battle of Troy, which doesn't really fit with this game in my opinion. That being said, I think the game plays really well. It's a very different abstract strategy game to add to my stable of abstract strategy games, and I'm happy that I have it. I'm going to put it on my shelf near my other abstract strategy games. And when I have friends over that like to play two-player abstract strategy games over a beer, like my friend Alex, if you have watched our review of many sci-fi and fantasy beers, Alex likes to come over, and over a beer we will play a two-player abstract strategy game. And this is one I think he would very much enjoy, and that I'm sure I will play against him in the future. This is just another great option to be added to my stable of abstract strategy games. I like how it plays. I like how it's very different from most of my other abstract strategy games. I don't have really anything else that plays even similar to this. So if you, like me, are a fan of abstract strategy games and you want something that's still an abstract strategy game but plays significantly different than other piece-moving games like chess and checkers and things like that, this is a good game to add to your stable. You should buy this game. I give this game 7 out of 10 stars. That is a positive review. That means I will play this game many times in the future. Anytime somebody wants to play this game, I will recommend playing this game when I am really in the mood for a game that plays like Agamemnon, which I don't know any other games that play like Agamemnon. So I will definitely play this game quite a bit. I look forward to playing this game over a few beers with friends. It is a fun two-player abstract strategy game. So again, 7 out of 10 stars. Positive review, but let's get a second opinion. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you give to Agamemnon?
5.
Ooh, so that's more of a mediocre review. Now, that's a good example of how not every game is for every person. Now, I played a few games of this with Lynn, so I know she's played it enough to make up her mind. Now, Lynn is not as big a fan of abstract strategy games as I am. For instance, while I love Nine Men's Morris, it's one of my favorite abstract strategy games, and I have played it dozens and dozens of times, Lynn refuses to play that game with me at all. She's not a fan of it at all. She also is not a big fan of chess or quite a few of the other abstract strategy games. She only likes specific ones, like she's a fan of the Duke, but not a big fan of Swords and Strongholds. Will only play it on occasion. So in this particular case, it just didn't click with her. She just didn't like the way the game played. So I will be playing it many times in the future because I really did like this game a lot, but I'm probably not going to be playing it with her very much. She specifically said she would maybe on rare occasions have to be in the mood to play this game, and might, but it would be rare at best. So I'm going to play this with other friends of mine for sure, and because I like it and I want to try all the variants. The next thing I would really like to try is I'd really like to try that Defy the Gods variant. I want to try it as a total information game, which I've not yet gotten to try it as. So if you're one of my friends and you're watching this, next time you come over and it's just you and me playing games, be sure to ask to play Agamemnon as in the Defy Your Gods variant, so we could give it a shot. And for all the rest of you out there, again, if you're big fans of two-player abstract strategy games, this is a good game to add to your library. So that's it for Agamemnon. What did you think? Have you played this game before? Did you disagree with Meyerland's review or rating of it? Go ahead and comment down below. Do you have any suggestions for my channel? Any things you would like to see me do, differently? Comment down below. Do you have any suggestions for future videos, especially in the geek culture video area, where I like to come up with ideas for topics that are a bit adjacent to the board game topics that I normally review in my board game reviews area? Comment down below. And as always, if you like this video and you would like to see me do more like it, please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, game on.